show you Cochrane and why is it important to know what PICO is. If you haven't checked Cochrane, then follow the link that I provided in the Teams or New Pinus Maya. If you click the Cochrane Module 1, Introduction to Conducting Systematic Review, then you will be asked to join to Cochrane Library, Cochrane Interactive Learning, and you can register for free. And then open this module. And if I click this module, it will bring you to a series of points of learning. And I'll go to this one. And then you can go to menu. And it starts with these blocks. The difference between systematic review and non-systematic review, most of you are correct. Systematic review is very systematic. There is one method and then a protocol to follow on, while non-systematic review is just a random review. So you look up to Google and then pick some paper. It is not systematic. But systematic review is methodologically. And we will learn that methods in detail next week. But this week, I will give you a review on this method. And then systematic review versus single study. Single study is really a case study, while systematic review needs to review lots of primary articles. Some of them may be secondary articles. Secondary articles mean another review, another systematic review, or another meta-analysis, but most of systematic review sources coming from primary articles. Primary articles means articles which was written by a group or by a researcher through a real research, whether it's lab research or field research. And then on review question, I will jump to PICO format. And why do you need PICO? All the PICO means participants, intervention, comparisons, and outcomes. Participants means who are you interested in studying your review. Interventions mean what is the intervention or group of intervention you want to test. It's not necessarily a group of participants, but it could be a group of treatments, for example. For example, if you do a systematic review for food fermentation, and then you go down to subtopic of tempeh, for example, and then tempeh from soybean, you go below through soybean, and then what you want to have is intervention of the time of reaction, for example, or kinetics of reaction in producing tempeh from soybeans. Then the interventions means that variation of kinetic reaction. So that's if your systematic review related to food product or food mechanism or food reaction, those kind we call also as intervention. While participants, we can say that participants included the location. For example, if you want to define a research question related to tempeh that was produced in Jawa Tengah, Central Java, and you want to do research, if there is, you want to do a systematic research based on anything related to tempeh and related to the location. So you will use that participations as part of that location. On comparisons used to have something to be measured. So what will the interventions be compared to something? You will not go to that comparisons for measurement. You may go to comparison between factors. For example, back to the example of tempeh production, where I want to know what kind of kinetic reaction or kinetic or mechanism of reaction within tempeh from soybeans in Central Java, for example. Then I will investigate Central Java as a location of that participate of tempeh production. And then intervention is different kind of factors that related to the kinetic reaction of tempeh production. So in comparison means I want to investigate the factors that relate to producing the tempeh from soybeans in Central Java in terms of kinetic reaction. But if you want to measure, then comparisons will go way to meta-analysis, because then you will need a measurement. For example, if you go back to that tempeh example, I want to measure the difference of concentration of certain microbes on tempeh that were produced in Central Java. And if you find some researchers doing tempeh research with the local product in Central Java, and then you have some data from those articles, it means you want to compare the numbers of concentration between A, B, C, D, etc. Say if you have 100 research that has those kind of variation, it means you compare the measurement. Once you compare the measurement, then it will go to meta-analysis and not to the systematic review for narrative systematic review. So this time within this course, I will not go to that deeper to meta-analysis problem, but I will just ask you to explore more toward systematic review, especially in different interventions and outcomes, or different interventions with different part of the world, different place, that kind of research objective for your assignment and your assessment in midterm. So in outcomes, you may want to know what outcomes will tell you which intervention is the most effective in a qualitative way. Okay. So PICO examples, PICO itself, four of the PICO requirements will be needed for health sciences and medicine. But for you, one of them or two of them are enough. Okay. So the questions before then, the correct questions is just to incorporate one or two of them within your research. Not always in the research objective, but within your method, you can incorporate either intervention or participants or outcomes. You don't need to compare, because comparisons here goes to the measurement. Okay. Otherwise, if you really want to compare, it means you just declare toward comparison in a narrative way, qualitatively, as I mentioned before. So you can compare the factors that affect something, but it is not a measurement. Okay.